For those of you that do not have a topic quite yet, I want you to send me an email by midnight tonight, giving me 2 ideas that for a persuasive topic that I can look at, and we can go through the approval process. So everything I'll have to okay for the persuasive. So far, if I said it's okay, you're okay, and you move forward in that direction. For this assignment, again, you're going to create an audience analysis, and we're going to do this online. Here is the actual description of this. This is something that you already have in the handouts, and it's also online. So this isn't considered a major assignment, but it's worth a lot of points. It's worth 50 points for your outline, and then also your presentations are worth 100 points, so you can see how that's weighted. The other thing about this particular assignment is it carries over into the other assignments. So the audience analysis, I expect it to be written at least 2 times in your outline, plus it's considered one of your sources in your outline, and I expect you to mention it twice, a minimum of 2 times within your presentation. So those are things that will start to weigh in with this. So this is one of those assignments where it may not seem like it's a lot of points, but if you're not applying this in other areas, you're going to see points taken away in the other major assignments. So this is something that is important to consider. Now we will, I'll quickly talk about the assignment, and then I'm going to go into other components about being audience-centered. So we're going into a deeper level of being audience-centered. Now this assignment, just a quick rundown, and then we'll go through this step by step, but a quick rundown is a total of 6 questions. So one of those questions will be demographic, which we'll talk about. And then 5 questions are considered psychological, which is about the topic itself. You'll have 2 scale, 2 multiple choice, and 1 open-ended question. This will be all done online. You will complete each other's audience analyses, and you will take that into consideration before you develop your persuasive arguments. So your job right now is not to go and write the outline. Our job is to first construct this, and then find out what we think about our topic, and then cater persuasive arguments to this class. So you're not changing your position, even if you may have something where people may have different points of view. For example, you will probably run into that. Yours, you will probably run into that as well. But for the audience analysis, you need to find out what they think. You're not changing your position, and that's going to help you develop persuasive arguments. Does that make sense so far? Okay, then let's talk about what kind of audiences we'd be looking at. Okay, this is also in your books, but it's also intuitive. So when we're looking at an audience, we need to know, especially with persuasion, how your audience feels about your topic. And this is called an audience disposition. And it can be favorable, unfavorable, or neutral. And I don't mean to say that it's only just favorable, or only unfavorable, or only neutral. It is a range, it's a scale that we're looking at. Okay, so favorable topics, and we talked about this a little bit when we were introducing general purposes, and we know that our general purpose is to persuade. If your audience already agrees with you, then you will do things like reinforce the audience, reinforce the class, reinforce your peers about something. it's a different feel than if they disagree with you. If they disagree with you, they're coming in with a different attitude. And so you are not going to be able to as easily come in here and just be like, oh, since you all agree with me, let's move into action. Here you have to do some convincing, or if they are highly opposing your topic, you have to be realistic about where to meet your audience. So let's say, and it's not actually very common to find somebody, especially in this kind of a setting, that is highly unfavorable or favorable or highly unfavorable to any one topic. Even if we take our heavy hitter topics or our big topics, let's say like euthanasia. Okay, you have pockets of people that are highly unfavorable and pockets of people that are highly favorable to this particular topic. Now for the rest of us, you know, we may not have as strong feelings. Is there anybody in here, and we won't get into a debate about it at all, but is there anybody in here that feels very strongly against euthanasia? Okay. How about strongly for? So what we have here is, you know, basically what my experience is in the classroom, where you'll have it. What I'm seeing here is probably, now you may feel favorable or unfavorable, but it may not be so far favorable or so far unfavorable, and yours is, and that's one of the reasons why I won't bring that into the classroom, because that can be very difficult in a persuasive topic. But the rest of us kind of feel somewhere in between there. An example would be marijuana laws. Okay, there may be pockets of us that think it should be legalized and pockets of us that think it shouldn't, but you may not feel strongly one way or the other about that. And I personally fall into that category. Okay, there's a lot of reasons why. I lean a little bit towards the unfavorable, but I'm not going to go out and protest it. If it becomes legal, it's not going to make any difference in my life. You know, it's not something I do, so it's not a huge unfavorable. I'm more along the lines of just a little bit over here, but not way over here. Okay, and that's where a lot of us kind of fall. Neutral, there's two reasons why an audience member or an audience in general would be neutral to a topic. It could be that they don't really see how it applies to them, it's not relevant to them at all. Or they are pretty well educated on the topic and they haven't made a decision. So we could put some of the other, you know, lighter things. This Pluto planet, for example. Okay. Now, I could be like, you know what? I don't really care. I'm not planning on visiting Pluto anytime soon. This has absolutely no relevance. I don't really, you know, this is not important to me at all. Okay, so it doesn't matter. So what would be your job if you wanted to convince me that Pluto was a planet? If I fell into that neutral category? So before you get to that point, the relevance. So you kind of have to go back to that relevance, which we've worked on relevance before. So why is it important for me to even care about Pluto? Can somebody tell me why I should care about Pluto?
It probably somehow affects Earth's rotation or gravity or whatever, I don't know.
And of course, that may be some additional research that you'd have to do. Is there something about Pluto that's affecting the entire solar system? probably, I don't know, but that would be something that even if there's a question, you know, having, or basic knowledge of coming into a conversation that's popular, may be a good idea for me to know something about this. So yeah, maybe you can help me find relevance in this area. Now, another thing is, a common one would be saving for retirement. If I am a young person, or you're talking to a young person, I'm not a young person, but you're talking to a young person, and they're like, you know, retirement is like forever from now, and I may not even be alive then. So why would I even worry about that? You know, I can barely make it paycheck to paycheck right now. You know, you're telling me that I should be, you know, putting money aside for something that's probably not even there in the future. That's a person that does not see the relevance. Or you're talking to somebody that says, I don't see how an education is going to help me. I already make as much as any graduates. Okay. That's somebody that is unfavorable to neutral. Okay, so you're going to handle that differently. What would you say to that person with the knowledge that you have? We don't see the relevance in the kind of, they're somewhat unfavorable.
What did you get interest on the job? At least, you know, you have something saved up that will, you know, actually help you along the way as well. So you can get disabled or whatnot.
Okay, all right, so I mean, that may be something to look into. The types of jobs that are available at say, what we call young person jobs. I mean, you make a lot of money with a high risk, and those are things that can definitely happen with those types of jobs. Okay, so you are seeing a different field. The other type of neutral is a person that knows a lot about the topic, they just haven't made a decision. Okay? And there's a lot of things that are out there, platforms today that are looking at it. So Nick, yours may fall into that category, I don't know. A lot of people go, you know, I do know something about this. I may know a lot about this, but I haven't made a decision. And so your job would be to be conscious of what the audience does know, and then bring them up to the next level with persuasive arguments.
So, like with the persuasive, do you almost kind of have to like inform them about your topic a little bit too?
Sometimes.
If they don't even like know your topic really, kind of need to like introduce it to them a little before you persuade them?
Yes, with a neutral audience that doesn't see the relevance, then you do. So that's definitely, and it could be neutral, slightly unfavorable, you know, if you're trying to, or the other way, if you're trying to move them. So if there's any kind of neutral, because of the relevance, that is going to be something you need to do. Why is this important? Why should we care about the Federal Reserve? It makes absolutely no difference to me in my life. You know, I may have a little bit of an opinion, but I may be mostly neutral. You would probably be in that category. Okay. Kind of guess where you think your audience will be at. For those of you, it's going to be easy. So some of you are doing about health, and you know we should be healthy. You know, so you're probably going to get favorable audiences with this. But yes, because when we go back and we look at our surveys, I want to get an idea of if your guesses were about right for your audience's disposition. Okay, now that we've talked about the audience disposition, this is going to help us develop persuasive arguments, so I want you to remember this. The next thing we're going to look at is the type of audience that can make a difference, and how we actually present ourselves. So we can have a captive audience or a voluntary audience. And there's a bit of a misperception as far as what that brings into the energy, into the room, what kind of emotions are present in this. So a captive audience member is somebody that has to be there for some reason. And we don't want to get deeply philosophical about this. It's not to the degree of, well, everybody has freedom to do whatever they want. If you feel like your goals, you can't make your goals, or there's somebody that can hold something above you like a paycheck, and you need to be there like a mandatory work meeting, you're a captive audience. A voluntary, that is absolutely, completely free will, on your own time, on your own money, and you're completely choosing to be there, and if you're not there, there are no strings attached. So that's all we're looking at between the difference of the two. Of course, you can be disgruntled and not make it to a mandatory work meeting, but there's probably going to be consequences involved. So this is anything that you have to be at or something will happen. So give me some examples of, more examples of a captive audience member. What situations do you go to where you're a captive audience?
In service hours.
Yes. Class. Why is class? Why are you a captive audience in a class?
I have to go and attend and then take things off and then get back ready.
Okay, all right. And it also impedes further goals of graduation. So you are a captive audience. Okay, so we know work, we know school. Is there anything else you might be a captive audience to? There might be family pressures to do something. Some people say, oh, no, I have to go to church. Maybe that's not a good example, but you know, these are just examples I come up in, or I won't do this thing, or I'll get into trouble with somebody. Now, voluntary.
Church.
And you're right, it goes both ways, and that example comes in both of those. So going to church would be voluntary. What else would be voluntary? You have one.
Going to concerts.
Okay.
Play,
Okay. Yeah. So a seminar, a play, concerts, those things that are, again, something we freely go to, going to the movies. It could be taking we said a seminar, it could be taking one of those non-credit courses here at the college. So those are things that we're coming out of our own free will. And the thought is, originally, and this is not a correct thought, that if you're going to do something captive, you probably don't want to be there and you're probably unfavorable. And that's not necessarily true. And the same thing with the voluntary, that if you're going to something that, like a concert or something that, out of your own free will, then you're probably favorable. But what we're more looking at is where your emotions are capped. So with captive audience members, even if you're highly favorable, it's not likely that your emotions will be uncapped, that you'll be all expressive because of the consequences that could happen. So with voluntary audience members, if you think about it, and we go to that concert that we love, that person, that favorite artist. So we have our favorite artist, and you're listening to it, say it's a song that you love, your favorite song from this artist, and he's smiling. What's happening in mind?
Memories.
Okay, what happened? What has happened in those memories?
Good times.
So, good times means you hear the first few strings of that song, your energy level rises, you're getting excited, right? Okay, and then what happens? We just feel like, yeah, what do we do?
Emotionally clear.
Okay, So emotionally, and those emotions are expressed how? Okay. So, so we dance and we sing, and maybe we're foolish. You know, we're jumping up and down, we're doing all kinds of things, and you know, we're, I don't know, tossing things around. Whatever happens in those moments when it's completely voluntary, we're unguarded with our emotions, and that's what can happen. Now, if it's, let's say, you're going to something voluntary and you're highly unfavorable, so this is your protests. Okay, this can get, on the other hand, uncapped emotions, crazy stuff can happen. And then there's a whole lot of things in psychology that talk about this, where a protest can turn into a riot. And that is because it's a voluntary, unfavorable audience, and those emotions are uncapped. So you need to be aware, if you're presenting in a voluntary audience, where do they feel, where is the audience's disposition? Now, both of these can be difficult to handle. You know, you see the entertainer or the politician that can't get through the presentation because they're in a voluntary favorable audience, and they won't stop clapping and cheering, and they can't even get through anything. They're trying to do things to, okay, calm down, because people are so excited. So be aware. Captive audience members, and here, we can see it right here, you're a captive audience member. We're talking, and we have memories of some of our most exciting times of our lives, but we're still kind of shy to talk about it because it's captive, because it doesn't quite fit this environment. If we get too out of hand, then we're going outside of some of the norms of this type of a classroom, and you know, consequences might be involved. You know, what if I say a cuss word? I get into trouble. You know, this is how these types of audiences, you are capped, you're more controlled. That's why we can bring in certain things, that's why we can have these persuasive, to some degree, these persuasive arguments develop, these persuasive speeches, because we have an agreement in here that we're a captive audience. Outside of this, if you're giving a presentation, ask whoever is arranging this, do the people that are coming to see me, do they have to be there, or are they coming because they want to be there? Have an idea of what's going on, and have an idea of their disposition. How do they feel about this? Now, and I've had a lot of good experiences with captive audiences that were favorable, but sometimes you don't know until you get in there, so you just be prepared. Ask that question. Okay, now that we have determined that we're looking at the disposition, and we know we're looking at a captive audience, let's talk about some of the questions. So for this class, we have 6 questions. And the first one is a demographic question. So who can define what a demographic question means? We're gathering information.
Isn't that like just information about the person, like race, male or female, age, stuff like that?
That's exactly what it is. It has nothing to do with your topic. So everybody in this classroom can write a demographic question. Nothing about the topic, but it can give you an idea, a little bit more about the insights, the exposure that your audience has had to certain topics. And that's why it's important. So we can look at age, gender, what else? That's another demographic question.
Race, or ethnicity.
Is that what you're meaning? Okay. Okay. ethnicity, race, zip code. Religion. Religious background. Political party. Give you no rules. Marital status. Notice this has nothing to do with any topic. Level of education, income. Okay, this just all gives insights to our audience. Marketers do this. Marketers need to figure out who they're dealing with to know how to market their products. So if we were to use an example for demographics questions, for purely to understand our audience more, let's say that we are salespeople, so this is a persuasive presentation, and we're selling something. So give me an idea of what we can sell. Chocolate is an idea. Preference? Give me a third idea.
People. Internet or or trying to get to.
Oh,
That makes sense.
okay, all right, I'm gonna use cable because of the broad range of demographics that it can use. They all can, maybe not as much properties, because that would be more of a older demographic. So let's say cable. We are a new cable company. And we need to market, let's say, the age demographic, we're looking at a 21 to 24-year-old females. With, let's say, $24,000 income, annual income. Should we say married or unmarried? Let's say unmarried for this one. Unmarried and does not own a home. What would you market? How would you market cable to this demographic? So now we need to think like we're getting inside the minds of a 21 to 24-year-old female making this much, unmarried, doesn't own a home. What do you think she would be interested in?